Hey guys, Chris here, and another video on the full moon, which I did last time, talking about with semen retention as well, which can allow the full moon, particularly if you've been doing it for a few months, become a very sensitive time. That time on the build up to the full moon, and then when it is the full moon, and then after the full moon, it should feel a lot clearer. You should maybe go on a bit of a high, but it was full moon yesterday, and again, this time I'm starting to find is just a good time to self-reflect, is to just be aware of what is coming up. And what it made me realize, particularly with relationships, almost all the relationships in my life, I seem to focus on a lot of the negatives. And this is normal. This is a shadow side that you're seeing in the relationships in your life. And with many relationships with everyone really do eventually fade away, or they drop away. You know, if you was to know people you're around right now, if in 5 or 10 years time you knew they would fade away, maybe right now you would spend less time with them. I think we do feel like sometimes friendships, certain relationships do last for a lot longer, but we do outgrow and we do start to see things. And what the full moon does is, when it comes, it's just showing what's already there, and it is almost like a gift in a way to just sort of peek behind the curtain as to what was really there. And you know, certain relationships, yeah, they have a shadow side, stuff to be aware of, and that's not necessarily the other person. It's always about you and taking responsibility for yourself. So I think the first thing is to be okay, you know, what's this feeling? Has it come up before? Most likely yes, it's just a pattern which you've been through before, and it seems to reveal itself yet again, and it's just how you can deal better with that. And maybe some relationships, or one relationship maybe in particular, starts to show itself as, you know, maybe not being fit for purpose anymore. And, you know, you take this gift, and this is what the full moon is showing you. So the full moon is just really a time where what's deeper in your subconscious, you know, you can imagine this stuff which comes up in dreams, then just becomes fully out there. And reflection is like everything. For me, I become sensitive just to be around people. So what I made sure on yesterday, which was the full moon, as with today, to spend as much time on your own to reflect. Maybe you go to places that are quieter. You know, if you have like a quiet spa, sauna kind of thing, or just a place you can relax in nature. I was in nature yesterday. It's just a really good time to just be there and reflect. And even being in nature, even being on your own, can still be more challenging than usual. And I think that's why a lot of people, particularly at this time, will want to get around other people, but then people will irritate them as well. But it's interesting why when we don't feel good, we tend to want to be around other people sometimes, or we want to be on our own as well. So this is that kind of period. But for a lot of people who do the full moon parties and celebrating and drinking and partying, you know, as I've sort of done with some research and learned myself, this is not necessarily the best thing to do. They can be used maybe for commercial gain as well, even if the so-called spiritual events, it's like, hey, it's full moon, let's celebrate. You know, this is a time which I know many, as I've sort of wise people I've followed and heard from, is a chance to just reflect and to sit with what's coming up. Try your best to be positive and realize like what you want to bring into your life. You can make emotional decisions as well. I know the other day I made an emotional decision, just randomly decided to do something over message and this sort of thing, and straight away you're like, why did I do that? And you're just very reactive. You don't know particular what you're doing. You might be like, okay, I'm just going to do this, and then you do it, which maybe can be good, you've acted on it, but also it can be a sensitive time as well, and you want to always, you know, reflect, not when you're in the emotion. So, you know, I speak to people who don't really seem to feel too much on this day, and what I realized that semen retention is definitely a thing. You know, when I spoke to other people who are doing it, they can feel it, but then when I speak to people who aren't, even people who are very conscious and very self-aware, you know, and they're not doing the retaining thing, and the people I've met in particular, like, yeah, they've got a girlfriend and stuff, and they're like not really that interested in it, or they're open to it, but they also mention the challenges. I think people have mentioned on the video as well, saying, "Oh, I used to do that, but I'm married now." And the semen retention thing is just a choice. It's whether you want to sit with your partner. Maybe the partner is not open to it, but this also comes down to you, and what you want. If you found you did it without your partner, and then with your partner you're not, then obviously that's your choice. But as you say, with the full moon, you're not really going to feel anything, and you're not going to grow. So there's these other things that are happening which are beneficial. And you might relate to this video now if it's something you don't do anymore and you did at one point. Because some people I've seen, they were like, "Oh yeah, I was celibate for a year, and oh yeah, I noticed that and noticed it," but then they don't notice it anymore. Or they say it's a negative, and I would say the negative with semen retention is the full moon and how crazy it can get. And I was watching some other videos, not many videos posted online about full moon, more so for men. But it is a time when, when people start going crazy. That's how I felt last time, and the full moon before, is I was going crazy. And they say, like, with werewolves, go with full moon, they start howling and going crazy, and certain people do witches and all this sort of stuff because the energy. And this is something women more notice. But I think as a man, if you can, that is a powerful thing, and it just shows you that sometimes we're not too different. You can become more sensitive on semen retention. You can feel the moon. It's almost like you're becoming like a woman, but also more in control. And I think that's the important thing to be aware of as well, is you don't want to lose yourself. For me, I found maybe you want some sort of validation, and when I ask people how you feel in this full moon, they're like, "I feel terrible." And they can feel it, but some other people don't. And I've noticed that even not on semen retention, or some, I've seen people saying, "Oh, I've just not slept the last day or last 2 days," and you look at these sort of things with full moons as well, is it does affect sleep. The last 2 days, my sleep wasn't the same, and I don't drink coffee. The sleep is normally fine. I went to bed at a reasonable hour, and these things happen. So this is one of those things, and you can be a lot more sensitive. The dreams in particular come more to the surface, emotions as well. I found a couple in the night just waking up with real emotional things, and you're in a bit of fear as well sometimes, at least for me. So I've just found it good. This is why it's good to be away from people as well, because you can sometimes, with people maybe get a bit emotional, or you make some sort of decision, or you say something which you wouldn't normally say because you're in this kind of reactive place. And what I found is after the full moon is very much like you survived the storm, and right now you're in the storm, but the storm is not, you can still, it is about being present. And the reason you can stay present as well is you're getting so much information, which is great, because you're really looking into your shadow. A lot of people don't want to do the shadow work, and I think this is why the moon does what it does, because we are supposed to face this stuff. And if you're just in a comfort zone and you sit there, at least the moon is bringing stuff to the surface. So I found myself maybe in a bit more of a comfort zone at the moment, and the full moon just really shakes things up a bit, where it will make you want to step out your comfort zone. Like your comfort zone becomes more painful. And I think that's why we do create change, because then we do step out our comfort zone. Like, for example, with myself, maybe where I'm living at, because I'm kind of travel around and I've been in the same area for quite a while. But I know if I perhaps move and I get to a different environment, I'll probably learn some more stuff. And, the pain kind of is what has always allowed me to move on to the next stage. If I didn't feel that, I probably would have just stayed in my hometown or just always been in London. But, these sort of things, they had to shake things up to move. So yeah, that's some of the points for this video on the full moon, and understand that normally after a few months of doing semen retention in particular, it will become more challenging, and this is what leads to relapses. When I reflected, I think the last sort of big relapse I did, I learned more about the full moon, and people were talking about, and I think because I'd been going for a bit, maybe like 6 months, that's when I really felt the intensity of it. more so than ever. And when I look back, normally a lot of the relapses, and from people in a certain community that I'm in, that's when the relapses happen, because the emotions become too much. And normally when you're faced with emotional challenges, that's when you escape into, you want the pleasure because you're feeling the pain, and you want to get as far away from the pain as you can. And normally we think, like, after we felt pleasure, we're in the sort of pleasure realm for a bit, and we can keep going there from an external circumstance, from watching porn or whatever, or eating junk food, or drinking the coffee, and this stuff that we know can get us to a feel good place. And the thing you have to do is just to write it out, and it will eventually fade. And it's just being like, what are these feelings telling us? Normally when you feel something and it feels bad about a relationship, something that's being revealed to you, or your job, or or anything, like where you're living, and then the full moon will just make that more, and that's why we create change. And I think these days with the moon is very powerful. But the time that I love the most is when it's gone, and it feels like you've shedded some energy and let some things go. So it's always a part which is essential. It's not good or bad. Obviously I always judge it as bad, and it feels bad, but it makes greater sense in the long term. And I think that's what I always want to do when you're feeling the difficult emotions. They will pass, maybe even in 24 hours from when you're feeling them. And you just have to stay strong and not be like, I want pleasure. Because when you go to that pleasure and you get the then it's going to come back with the pain again, and it maybe comes back harder. So, and you don't learn the lesson. So it's important to stay with it if you want to grow. And so yeah, I wanted to give you that video, guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. And let me know what you think with the full moon. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.